Welcome back to Journey to Xrp. This is the station where we talk about crypto the way banks do, not the way the news makes it sound. I hope you're having a great day no matter where you are watching. If you're here during this holiday week, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. What I want to talk about today isn't just another XRP update. What we're seeing now is much bigger than most people think and more than they're mentally ready for. The financial markets have had one of the weirdest years we've ever seen in 2025. Everything looks fine at first glance. The S&P 500 is very close to its all-time highs. It looks like the Nasdaq will keep going up. The Dow is hitting all-time highs. There are new highs in even gold and silver, which usually means trust, stability, and growth. But crypto tells a very different story at the same time. Long-term pressure has been building on Bitcoin, and XRP has been dealing in a way that doesn't seem to match up with what the news says. Bitcoin is down a lot from its high point, and this has been one of the worst fourth quarters in years. Now comes the part that should really stop you. Something big hasn't gone wrong. No collapse of the market, no disasters like FTX. In fact, most of the changes that have happened this year have been clearly good. ETFs are okay. Interest from institutions growing, regulatory clarity is slowly getting better, so the question can't be avoided. What's wrong with price? Based on past events, there are only two possible reasons why price action would be so far from the facts for such a long time. Either the market is broken or prices are being kept low on purpose. It's hard to ignore the second answer when you think about how much liquidity, leverage, and control market makers and big players really have. What we see in 2025 doesn't look like a chance sign of weakness. It looks like pressure was put on purpose. It looks more stable and controlled than anything we've seen in the last 7 years, even when things were really chaotic. This year is different because of both the pressure and the time. The pressure is there even though basics are getting better, not worse. That is a huge red flag. In the past, that exact pattern has come before some of the biggest moves the markets have ever made. Let me take a moment to think before we go any further. You already know that basic information isn't enough if you're watching this show. The 100x Investor Bundle has everything you need to think like the top 1% of people in the world. It includes frameworks, positioning strategies, and institutional level ideas that are never shared with the public. It has special documents, videos, and infographics that show how serious capital situations are before big changes. This movie has a link to it, and if you use the code MILLIONAIRE, you can get a discount. Read this if you want to learn more about asymmetric chance. It's time to talk about XRP again, because this is where things change. The way XRP is being marketed is not like how most retail trading assets are marketed. It is being moved closer and closer to the structures of institutions. When it comes to how they work, assets that are close to the financial system don't act like meme coins or tokens that are only used for speculation. They move at different times for different reasons and because of different goals. A separation event seems to be taking shape, a time when XRP doesn't move along with the rest of the cryptocurrency market. XRP starts to react to a completely different set of forces while other assets stay stuck in cycles driven by volatility and emotion, needs for liquidity, settling demand, and lowering systemic risk. It's not a new idea. What's different is the time. The window is getting better. We are getting close to a time when world liquidity needs to come back. It has to happen because the system needs it, not because the markets want it. The amount of debt can't be maintained. Bond markets are under a lot of stress. Bond prices are going up where they shouldn't be going up. One great example is Japan. It's been decades since their 10-year government bond rates were this high. That's not like Japan at all. That's a cue to be careful. Japan is one of the countries with the most debt in the world. There, stress doesn't stay put when it shows up. It sends waves outward. When yields go up, the cost of capital goes up. And when prices of capital go up, governments step in. This point is very clear from history. Liquidity always comes after systems that are getting close to being unstable. The central banks answer. Rates are changed. A lot of money is put in. They have to, not because they want to, but because failing the system would be worse. And when cash comes back, it doesn't go to everything in the same way. It starts to flow into assets that are already close to the system. Things that can take in a lot of space, things that can easily move money across countries. This is where XRP's importance really shines. At the same time, big players are quietly setting up. JP Morgan is talking freely about crypto trading with their business clients. BlackRock has been very vocal about Bitcoin, but has been very quiet about XRP. And that quiet isn't a mistake. At that level, Being quiet often says more than what's in the news. When institutions work on something, they don't always talk about it, especially not before the setting is done. XRP's price has a long history of annoying price changes that are quickly followed by huge price drops. After long times of holding back, boredom, and disbelief, sudden violent moves happen. Not because stores are getting excited all of a sudden, but because placement has already been done behind the scenes. There are OTC desks, dark pools, and private liquidity deals. Shops almost never find out last. Why do so many people feel lost right now? They see good changes, but prices that don't change. The market is thought to be broken. The market is really doing the same thing it always does before a big change. It wears down patience. It makes you doubt yourself. It makes you doubt it, because that's where most people give up. One news story can't make the market move. They move because pressure builds up slowly over time and then suddenly drops. That stress is growing in the world's banking system right now, and crypto is right where all of that stress meets. One of the biggest myths among small buyers is that price discovery takes place in public on exchanges. It doesn't. Most of the big jobs are built away from public order books. Institutions can't get bigger without making prices go against them. If the price stays the same or goes down while the conditions get better, it usually means that accumulation is going on somewhere you can't see. This is very important for XRP. No XRP is being saved up for hype rounds. It is being gathered for later use, for positioning, and for system reasons. Market highs are not the time for institutions to buy building assets. When people are feeling down, when stores are angry, or when people's attention is on something else, they buy them. We are in just that kind of situation right now. In the meantime, the world's liquidity is getting close to breaking point. The bond markets, especially in Japan, are sending out clear signs of stress that can't be ignored. It is thought that bonds are the safest part of the structure. When returns go up, people lose faith. And when trust drops, action is taken. There are also signs from the government that monetary policy will likely change again. Talks about changing who runs the Federal Reserve are not happening by chance. The liquidity situation is controlled by the person who has that seat. Markets look to the future. They don't wait for news to come out. They stand in front of them. This is why Wall Street is quietly keeping an eye on XRP, not too loud, not on Facebook or Twitter, in peace. When there is a lot of money in the system, XRP solves a problem that becomes more important: quick settlement with no tension. Systems that don't work well break down when cash moves quickly. When that happens, options are quickly chosen, and things will happen in ways that most people won't understand until after the fact. When markets change, they don't usually let people know ahead of time. They just start acting differently, and by the time it's clear that they've changed, placement is already done. Now we'll talk about one of the most confusing ideas in crypto: taking apart. Decoupling doesn't mean that XRP stops caring about the rest of the market all of a sudden. It means that XRP starts to respond more to its own fundamentals than to how people feel about cryptocurrencies in general. That difference is very important. A lot of digital assets are still thought of as high beta risk investments. They go up when there is more cash and down when there is less. The main things that affect their prices are gambling, leverage, and public opinion. XRP is slowly moving out of that group. It starts to act less like a speculative token and more like an asset that is driven by utility as it becomes more integrated into settlement, payments, and institutional processes. That changes the way prices move over time in a basic way. Assets that are useful don't just move during hype cycles. They change prices when the market sees that they have been structurally undervalued for what they do. This is where a lot of people feel mentally stuck. Many people quickly dismiss the idea of XRP hitting 3 or even 4 digits because they think it will happen in the same way that meme coins do. This is not the right structure. Infrastructure repricing doesn't happen slowly, and it doesn't begin with shoppers being happy. It happens when the system figures out that an object is important, hard to get in the right situation, and priced too low compared to demand. Price stability is no longer a nice to have if XRP is used on a large scale as a bridge currency. That doesn't make sense, but it's very important. It's not possible for a settlement asset to be very unstable and still work well. As use goes up, cash goes down. It gets harder to manipulate as liquidity grows, and as the ability to manipulate prices goes down, prices are pushed to more accurately reflect reality. And this is where people often get the supply issue wrong. People are too focused on the total supply to think about movement and demand. When XRP moves value around the ledger a lot, there is more demand for liquidity, Even if tokens aren't being kept for a long time, institutions don't have to keep XRP for a long time. They need to be able to regularly get to it. That sets a basic demand that changes the way prices move in a fundamental way. Systemic risk is another level that is often forgotten. When there is a lot of stress in standard markets, institutions are much more aware of counterparty risk, settlement delays, and waste. Blockchain-based settlement systems offer almost quick finality, which is very appealing when the market is unstable. That's exactly what XRP was made to do. When there are speculative bull markets, speed, efficiency, and dependability are not very interesting traits. But when systems are under pressure, they are very valuable. Another important thing is timing. Decoupling never takes place when everyone thinks it will. It takes place when positioning is set and the market doesn't expect change to happen. At the moment, people are mostly annoyed and frustrated. People are more interested in what hasn't happened than in what is being made in the background. In the past, that hasn't been when risk was biggest. That's when chances tend to come up. Signs of fear and tiredness are important. Major turning points have always been preceded by extreme gloom. When people stop paying attention, become less involved, and lose faith, societal changes can happen without any opposition. Because XRP has been in that area for a long time, reactions to it are often very strong. Clarity in regulations is another benefit that isn't given enough credit. XRP has already been looked at by regulators, which is something that not many other digital assets have done. That process hurt, but it got rid of a huge question. That risk is still there for a lot of other things. That difference is very important to institutions. It's important for them to avoid surprises and keep assets that could become compliance problems at any time. Integration is easy when things are relatively clear. Traditional banking is also sending us small but important signs. Professionals on Wall Street don't use slang when they say they understand XRP. Understanding comes before adoption. Capital flows come after adoption. Prices are set after capital moves. Just because the object is digital doesn't change that order. Now is the time to keep your feet on the ground. To get to very high prices, there would need to be a lot of volume, a lot of people using XRP, and a major change in what it does. That takes time. But completely ruling out the idea without knowing how it works is just as wrong as believing it without any doubt. Direction, not exact numbers, should be the main point. Bitcoin's half cycles or speculative rotations will not have as much of an effect on XRP if it decouples. It will depend on how much money moves through the network. That model is not at all like that. And those kinds of changes don't call attention to themselves. There is no clock that counts down. The market just acts differently one day. This is why waiting is more important than guessing. Most of the time, people who wait for perfect proof get there too late. People who know about the shift ahead of time don't have to rush. The only thing they need to do is stay calm. Keeping our balance is the most important thing we can do as we move forward. Don't pay attention to great fear and hype. Pay attention to the basics, where you stand, and the big picture. These three things come together right now for XRP. Because of this, it keeps getting attention, even when price action seems disappointing. Crypto doesn't exist by itself. It is part of a global structure that includes debt, money supply, interest rates, and political choices. That system is clearly under a lot of stress. The bond market, especially the market for government bonds, is giving out warning signs. Bonds should keep you safe. When returns go up, it means that people are losing faith. Most people don't realize how important Japan's situation is. Low rates have been important to their business for many years. When the 10-year yield goes up quickly, it means that they are under a lot of stress that can't be hid. And stress in one big economy doesn't stay put for long. It gets around. It is easy to guess how central banks will react when it spreads, adding cash, changing interest rates, and supporting the market. This brings us back to what people expect from leadership and monetary policy. The markets are already anticipating possible changes in who runs the central bank. Whoever runs the Federal Reserve affects the availability of money around the world. If people in the market think that interest rates will go down eventually, capital starts to move early. There is no trickle-in of liquidity. It floods. And when the system has a lot of cash, it looks for the best ways to move it around. This is where settlement methods based on blockchain stand out. Traditional tracks take longer to move things, cost more, and cause more friction than these. For that purpose, XRP was built to do just that. It isn't trying to change everything, it's trying to improve settlement, which is one of the most important parts of banking. In this process, ETFs speed things up. They get rid of friction. They let huge amounts of money get exposed without changing how people act. As more people use ETFs, the line between standard investments and digital assets starts to blur. There will be more crypto ETFs than just Bitcoin, and Ethereum is likely to be one of them in the next few years. People in charge of assets don't build infrastructure if they don't plan to use it. The way Xrp is regulated and its connections with institutions make it a natural choice in that setting, even if people are talking quietly. Institutions don't look for stories. They get ready for the cycles. They move ahead of changes in policy, not after them. This is why trickery often gets stronger right before big changes. Suppression makes buildup possible. Volatility scares away weak hands. Speculators leave when people are bored. What's left are people who can see the structure and not just the noise. What makes this moment special is that so many signs are coming together at the same time. Stress in the macroeconomy, changes in policy, the growth of exchange-traded funds, ETFs, better knowledge by institutions, and retail exhaustion. Most of the time, these conditions don't show up together. When they do, they usually come before big moves. Both fans and critics of Xrp have been surprised by it in the past. The wait time is longer than expected, and then it goes faster than expected. That trend isn't a mistake. It shows how and why demand comes about. Expectations don't always match up with reality, which can lead to emotional extremes. Balance is the better thing to do. See the possibility without ignoring the risk. Know that the exact time may not be known, but the overall direction of the structure may be. Xrp is moving toward the banking system instead of away from it. That alone changes how it needs to be judged. When liquidity cycles change, assets that are part of workflows are the first to gain. Assets that depend only on guesswork have a hard time. It's not favoritism here. What it does, the market rewards planning over reacting. It's easy to see why many people are angry right now. Price hasn't taken into account what's going on behind the scenes. That gap makes people question. But doubt often comes right before things become clear. There is the most risk when everyone is at ease. There are usually opportunities when there is a lot of doubt. Investors often make the mistake of thinking that price has to move before value can be made. Value is built first, though. Price comes after. The value offer of Xrp is no longer just an idea. It works properly. It's being tried, added, and made better. It takes a while for that process to hit critical mass, but once it does, things can change quickly. Here, being patient with knowledge is important, not just hope, but knowing why you believe what you believe. A conviction based on function and relevance lasts a lot longer than a conviction based on price goals. There is more value in probability than in certainty. Even though nothing is certain, the chances of Xrp still being useful in a future banking system are higher now than they have ever been. Also, we're moving into a time when how institutions act counts more than how individuals feel. When institutions get bigger, they move more slowly. Infrastructure, following the rules, and efficiency guide their choices. These are more of the things that Xrp does than most other digital assets. As the availability of cash changes, capital will move to systems that can handle a lot of transactions without breaking. The Xrp was designed to be fast, reliable, and easy to settle. People with those traits aren't very interesting when they're in speculative mania, but they're necessary when people are stressed. The markets will keep testing your ability to control your emotions. There will be more noise. Opinions will become very different. More predictions will be made. That doesn't change how things work underneath. Being stable, well-informed, and flexible is what gives you the real edge. We're not trying to promise a price here. To give you a framework, ask more useful questions. What's going on with price? Who does this system help? What takes place when things change? They are much more important than any one prediction. The goal of Millionaire Formula has always been to raise the level of discussion, to learn about systems, rewards, and cycles, not just daily candles. That point of view doesn't give you quick gratification, but it does make things clear. If you agree with this point of view and want to learn more about how the top 1% actually place themselves before big changes, I've put everything you need in the 100x Investor Bundle. It has documents, videos, and infographics that are only available there that break down institutional strategies and unequal chances. There is a link to it in the movie itself. To get a discount, use the code MILLIONAIRE. People who want to plan ahead and not act after the fact should read this.